after the successful rescue of Indian nationals. Dr. S. Jaishankar said in a social media post that 17 Indian workers who had been ensnared in unsafe and illicit employment in Laos are on their way back home. This rescue bid comes as the Ministry of External Affairs, in fact, got Indian nationals against falling prey to human traffickers promising lucrative job opportunities in Cambodia. Well, over 250 Indian nationals were rescued from the clutches of cyber criminals in the Southeast Asian country. This brings us to the big question that looms large. How can one identify such scams and prevent them from being poached? This is something which is not new. It's a phenomenon going on for a very long time. In fact, in the last few days, we also heard Indians being lured to fight against Russia, for Russia, but rather, I beg your pardon, against Ukraine. We'll talk about this with our guest. Joining us on the show is Ambassador Suresh Kumar Goel, former ambassador, former diplomat. Mr. Sanjeev Srivastava, foreign affairs expert, also joins us on the program. Professor Madhav Nalapat, editorial director of the Sunday Guardian, with us on the program as well. Last but not the least, Mr. Pathikrit Pine, international affairs expert, is also with us on the show. Professor Nalapat, how do you look at this, particular situation or predicament that a lot of desperate Indians find themselves in? They're obviously going to all these countries which are far, far away for better opportunities, greener pastures, but the system somehow tweaks, their fate in such a way they end up doing things which are illegal or illicit or things that they did not sign up for. Do you think that the Ministry of External Affairs, along with its various embassies and branches across the world, has done a stellar job in making sure that these Indians who are bereaved by these phony, these fake, these spurious opportunities are being brought back?
Well, Vineet, let me tell you that unfortunately, China has now become the Wild West of the cyber world. And a large number of cyber scams are operating, which are essentially controlled from within China, but which are located in countries such as Laos and Cambodia, in which the Chinese influence is overpowering. Myanmar is another example of that. And unfortunately, Indian workers are highly talented, and many of them have been lured by completely false picturization of the work that they're doing, and then unknowingly they get involved in cybercrime for the benefit of the mafias that work in close connection and contact with the Chinese Communist Party. The CCP relies on mafias for several activities, especially abroad. And this kind of cybercrime, extortion rackets, so-called loan scams, it's happening in India as well. But fortunately, the government is alert, and a large number of them have been shut down. I'd like to say that definitely the Ministry of External Affairs has done a stellar job. Is not only here. You remember in Ukraine, as a consequence of the Prime Minister Modi's call to President Putin and President Zelensky, Indian students were unable to get out of Ukraine with almost no harm to themselves. And students from several countries used that route, waved the Indian flag, and escaped from Ukraine, which had been plunged into war in February 2022. Yemen, where a huge number of Indians were successfully extricated. And, we are talking about so many other instances where this has happened. The fact is that everyone with an Indian passport now feels much safer because it's very clear that the Ministry of External Affairs, run by Dr. S. Jaishankar, and basically, who is one of the key drivers of Narendra Modi's policy, which is that every Indian is precious, every Indian life is precious, and wherever he or she travels across the world, he or she should know that there is, as you have mentioned, a Modi key guarantee that he or she will be safe, and he or she can be assured that the Indian state will do whatever it can to keep him or her safe.
Ambassador Goel, I'm sure in your long line of work and your rich experience as a diplomat, this is something that must have come your way. You must have encountered certain situations which were similar or analogous to what's happening here. But the fact of the matter is that, there is no way, there is no protocol when it comes to Indians who respond to these spurious calls or are taken for a ride by these fake employers. There isn't enough warning, there isn't enough background checking being done as to whether these people are ending up in safe hands or not. What more do you think that the government of India can do? Of course, like they say, we have seen the cure, they have been rescued, but prevention is better than cure.
Vineet, do permit me to say a bit longer thing here.
Absolutely, sir.
3.5 years in Laos as ambassador, and I've traveled to Cambodia. I know the situation in Vietnam and Cambodia. And therefore, what I want to do is that on this issue, focus not on Yemen, not on the Middle East, not on Israel or not on the USA, but basically Indochina, Cambodia and Laos. Number one, knowing the economic conditions, the economic environment there in that area, I was very surprised that the Indians would be lured to actually seek job opportunities in Cambodia and Laos. Their economies are the economies of the least developed countries, very closely linked to China, and basically dependent on the natural resources, really. There is hardly any industries worth the name. Laos is landlocked, and therefore, even the connectivity or the shipping, etc., is not there. Therefore, I think what surprised me is that there should have been Indians who are lured into fake job brackets in Laos and Cambodia. And when I thought more about it, what occurred to me are two or three things. One of them was mentioned by Professor Nalpat, China factor. Today, the cyber network both in Cambodia and in Laos is completely controlled by China. Even in 2009-10, when I was there, China was busy developing information superhighway in Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, connecting all the way up to Indochina. And therefore, over the last 10 years, I'm not surprised that China would have basically come to control the cyberspace, both in Cambodia and in Laos, and therefore using the cyberspace in these two countries, where China cannot be accused of controlling the sovereignty, but using the space there because of the poor economic conditions there to commit cyber fraud. If the servers, Chinese servers are located in those countries and they're using them, it is quite a possibility. Point number one. Point number two, Laos and Cambodia have begun to be the potential basis for Chinese manufacturing value addition in the region, where they would be basically extracting iron ore, coal, cutting of the timber, developing furniture, etc. And those value addition factories begin to benefit China. Now, is it a possibility that China would be actually, because Chinese labor has now become more costly as compared to the Indian labor, that China is not trying to attract the Indian labor to work in those areas for their own benefits? I'm pointing out these things, Vineet, because if it is China who is behind these cyber frauds, if it is China who is behind this kind of a labor racket, the problem then is not just Laos or Cambodia. The problem we are facing then is China. China misusing its influence in our neighborhood. Laos and Cambodia and Vietnam, we know how important these countries were. Myanmar. If China has begun to use this neighborhood of India for attacking Indian youth, Indian unemployed youth, I think the problem is serious, and we need to look beyond just rescuing the labor, but we need to really look at avoiding the possibilities of Indian labor falling in the Chinese trap.
Absolutely right, sir. Pathikrit, what do you make of the situation? And Ambassador Goyal is spot on. So is Professor Madhav Nalapat, that the actual problem here is China. And even if you look at what these people were made to do, they were locked away. They were made to commit cybercrime. They were given meals just once a day. Their passports were withheld. And when they asked for their passports, their traffickers demanded a huge amount of money. This is obviously in connection with a lot of unidentified mafia, which controls some of these so-called call centers in Cambodia and Laos.
Well, Vineet, of course, there's no doubt about the Chinese hand in all of this. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But I want to add a little more on this issue because the Chinese angle has been beautifully explained by two very experienced panelists here. Let me tell you one more thing. If you look at it in the last 10 years, of course, the diplomatic achievement and the diplomatic proficiency is also incredible of the government of India, and the manner in which they have been rescued, it's worth respecting. But let me tell you two important things and the contrast. India today is the fifth largest economy we know. The GDP has officially crossed the $4 trillion mark as per IMF and World Bank. The problem of lack of institutional finance availability for majority of people has been solved through Mudra. And if you look at the project Gati Shakti 100 lakh crore investments, there are enough opportunities of jobs being available and created in the construction sector and associated sectors. People get jobs as per their own capabilities. The problem lies somewhere else, Vineet. The problem is this fascination and obsession that some people have, that either they would go for a government job or they would go abroad with the presumption that if I go abroad, I will get a better job. This perception is at the core, of the problem. And there is a limitation to what government can do beyond a point, because on many occasions, these people actually get hooked onto these online recruitment organizations, most of which are fake. Sometimes they receive these WhatsApp, messages from potential recruiters. Most of them are fake, just like the Chinese loan apps, which are available on, Google app, you can get it. So the issue is this: you require to make people aware that, look, come out of this illusion first, that the moment you go abroad, you get a better job and you have a great life. I mean, half the people who have gone from Punjab to Canada on the presumption that they will become multimillionaire, most of them end up working in restaurants as a waiter, even in spite of having a degree of a graduate degree. And I think till the time we create an ecosystem, because this obsession that going abroad will give you a better life has been ingrained in us from the time of schooling and from college onwards. So I think we need to, whatever we can, and I think at a greater effort, I'm sure the government will also have to do certain things in terms of making people aware. As the checks and measures, it is impossible for the government to do. And let me also tell you, we might at times blame the government, but it is also not possible for the government, in spite of its best intentions, to extract everybody possible, whoever has gone like that. For example, there are many people who are illegally infiltrating into United States through the Mexico route via Texas. They go through countries like Guatemala. Now, if you are in Guatemala, it is impossible. It is a place filled with all kinds of mafiosi. Now, you rightly mentioned prevention is better than cure. It is this presumption that there are no jobs available in India is an illusion. It's just that people either are not aware of the opportunities, or there is this obsession that I want to be rich very quickly. There is no shortcut. And the problem lies, Vineet, is also something like this. Every time stories are talked about the success of NRIs, what is not told is the struggle they go through before they become successful. Or for the entrepreneurs, the struggle they go through before they become successful. That is story, that issues of failure, challenges, nobody talks about. So these people are mostly getting trapped because they want to earn quick bucks, and most of them don't have understanding the difference between, say, perhaps, for example, hypothetically, a Cambodian dollar. I know the dollar is not their currency, and a US dollar. So lack of understanding, lack of knowledge, often lack of education. Most of these people, when you find in places like Cambodia, have gone for daily wage earners, in construction sites. But they have been lured. There are these agencies who actually give these lucrative offers. Most of the time they are fake. I think we need a regulatory authority, if it's possible, on all these recruitment agencies which operate in India. I don't know how it can be done if those are, inquiring and calling people from abroad, but creating awareness, sensitizing the states to talk to every district level officer and the BDOs to make people aware that this is not the way out. It is going to put you in trouble unless we have a whole national level movement in terms of making people aware that there are enough opportunities. It is an irony that companies from abroad want to come to India and invest, but there is a section of Indians who still believe that it's better to go abroad. There are certain pockets where there is no development. Whether you talk about Punjab or you talk about West Bengal, job opportunities are limited because development is not equally everywhere. They need to go to other states. They need to find out opportunities here. There are those opportunities. But going abroad on these fancy dreams must stop. Whatever the government can do, I'm sure they will do on this.
Absolutely. And Mr. Sanjeev Srivastav, Cambodia and Laos, I've been to both these places. Apart from relics and temples, there's nothing to be done and seen over there. This is very, very largely related to the misconception that a number of these people, these aspirants have about making a quick buck in these countries. They can perhaps do better in India. So it all boils down to, it all basically comes to information, knowledge, and telling them what is what.
Certainly, I think I completely agree with you, and Patrick also has very rightly pointed out that efforts need to be made to convince these people, those who are looking for such opportunities abroad, that those are even better opportunities are available well within our country, and they must explore it. They must have a greater knowledge. There has to be a completely agree with Patrick, ecosystem. To provide them a better, domain awareness, what kind of opportunities are available in India, and that will discourage them to go for such kind of allurements. So I think that is certainly needs to be done. I completely agree with you, and you also very rightly pointed out, Vinit, that prevention is better than cure. And to do that, I think it is also essential to identify those employers, those recruiting agencies, those who are putting these people in trouble, those who are luring them to send to go abroad, and in that process they are being put into all sorts of trouble. And in this particular case in Cambodia and Laos, this is the clear case of a cyber fraud. And certainly China angle is involved. As Ambassador Goel has very rightly pointed out, that their network is controlled by China. So this the cyber fraud, which has been done on a very large scale, it's a very serious matter in Cambodia in particular, in Laos also. I think it is essential to take this entire issue in a larger perspective and to understand what kind of conspiracies these kind of cyber fraudsters are having and hatching in close connection with China. So I think this entire issue is a serious issue, but I think the government of India, the kind of effort they have made, this is really commendable. I think this government of India believes in the policy that we will not leave any single Indian behind trouble. And wherever they are in trouble, if they have reported that they are in trouble, Indian government is very much there to help them out. And those who are illegally traveling and other such cases, as Patrick pointed out in Guatemala, etc., there cannot be anything done to ensure their safe and secure repatriation. But those who have reported that they are in trouble, whether they are in Cambodia or in Laos or in Ukraine or in Afghanistan or in Sudan or elsewhere, Indian government's policy is very, very much clear and determined that we will not leave any single Indian in trouble behind wherever they are in the world. So I think this Indian government approach, starting from Operation Rahat to Operation Ajay, I think it is really commendable job the government of India has done. But yes, I will reiterate the fact that awareness, the greater awareness has to be, ensured so that these people are not lured into such kind of, trouble situation.
We'll start taking, we'll take concluding thoughts from all our panelists, starting with Professor Nalapat.
Look, the problem is that the kingpins of such rackets will be outside the country and in China. There's no way the arm of the law from India can reach them. They'll be supported by the CCP. You may get some small fry here and there, who are doing odd jobs. But the kingpins will escape and continue their rackets. I quite agree that what is needed is to fight with information about these rackets, and above all, to instill a sense of accountability and the respect for the rule of law in every citizen of India. As Pathikrit very correctly pointed out, the point is that you cannot undertake an activity that you know to be legal and then expect to be protected. You can't protect individuals who are basically indulging in crime. So I think this respect for the rule of law is something that's got to be inculcated from a very early age. And I think that is slowly happening. And this kind of problem that is there, information has to be given. Information has got to be given about this kind of racketeering. Actual, case studies of individuals who have been trapped, the horrible lives that they have led, the punishment, sometimes even deaths and murders and assaults that they have faced, they need to be mentioned. So quite correctly, information must prevail over disinformation. But the fact is, the kingpins are in China, and being in China, it is almost impossible to reach them. What we can do is to prevent innocent citizens from falling into these traps.
Ambassador Goel. Thank you, sir. Ambassador Goel.
One has been already touched upon by Professor Nalpat, and I'm quite convinced in my own mind, because I know that the Laotians and the Cambodians do not have that kind of mindset which can trap the people from the other countries into their own practically non-existing economies, which is mostly tourist-oriented really, and the natural resources based. Therefore, it is the Chinese who are actually doing this kind of a thing, and that makes it really worse. Number two, I think what we need to do is, Chinese have begun to control the society and the economy of these countries, and therefore they have begun to use them as a basis for their own designs, including illegal movement of labor. If you look at the labor report, just saying that educating Indians is not going to help. Indians who may not have employment opportunities within India, and the reports are all there, they will keep on looking for opportunities. Real, fictitious, whatever it is, they will do that. But what we can do, and I think we should be doing that, is establish a kind of a trade body or a consultative body between India and Indochina, which can be approached, not just the embassy or the high commissions, which can be approached by the people from within India to see what the economic opportunities are there. Develop business between India and these countries. There's a lot of business to be developed in Cambodia and in Laos. And if the Indian companies go there to develop the business, they will become the first port of call for the Indians to find out what the situation there is. So we have to really go to the problem, not from the just preventing. Prevention is good, but doesn't always work. But in terms of really letting people know what the realities are, you call it education, you call it development of trade, you call it development of opportunities, whatever. But we need to really take it from the other angle.
Absolutely. Pathikrit?
We need 3 quick points. The labor report does not mention that in the last 9 years, 8 crore Indians took mudra loan to start their own business. So the dimensions of work has changed, and people have to change accordingly. Secondly, many of the times these rackets, what they do, they ask people to come and they burn the passports. So often it becomes very difficult even for the Indians to get them, to extract them, because the reason they burn the passport is that so that they don't get deported from the country where they have gone. Third, let's make people sensitized from the days of college itself as to how the opportunities are available. I can tell you with guarantee, because I worked in this sector, if anybody is willing to work hard and not looking for a 10 to 5 AC job, if there is somebody who is willing to work hard, there is no scarcity of work in this country, and there are enough opportunities. The problem is with the mindset. That mindset has to change. Otherwise, you would continue to have this kind of events happening every year. The government might try its best all the time to bring them back. 99% of the time, the government will be successful. There would always be 1% time it will not. So I think sensitization is important, and people must change the concept of how work has to, work is available today. Work hard, you will get it.
Good point. Mr. Srivastava, 30 seconds, please.
Yes, Vineet, we are in a digital age, and this is completely global village we are in. A kind of information networks are there. So I think the people will look for and we are also a largest populated country in the world. The people will look for the job opportunities. They do get better job opportunities also, but the need of the hour is to also at the same time to put a thorough, checks and investigative mechanism in place before such people are allowed to go, and they are trapped into such kind of a cyber fraud. I think our cyber network and cyber infrastructure has to be much more, enhanced so that a thorough investigation is done before such people are go abroad and look for such opportunities. So I think a comprehensive checking mechanism, investigative mechanism must also be developed at the same time by the government of India. And I'm sure that considerations must be going on at this point of time after such cases have been reported from of cyber fraud from Cambodia and Laos in particular. So I think
Absolutely.
a lot of
And you're right, sir. And it's also incumbent upon these countries as well to make sure that something like this is prevented, something like this is not repeated. It obviously also boils down to the relationship that India will have with these countries if they're going to permit, they're going to allow such sinister activities to continue. Would like to thank all my guests for being a part of this incisive conversation.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.